Good morning to you all. Let me introduce myself and my co-presenters who cannot be here in person, but they are with us online. So my name is Eniko. Currently, I work for the Ambani school in Mumbai, and I've been a careers counselor for 6 years. And prior to that, I was an IB English and English literature teacher. Jacqueline, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there. My name is Jacqueline Nottingham, and I am the college counselor at the Academic Bridge Program in Doha, Qatar. And I have been here, this is the beginning of my 7th year as a college counselor. And prior to that, I worked in college and university admissions in the United States at large and small universities.
Poonam?
Hello, everyone. I'm Poonam Bedi. I'm working in Wellington School, Qatar. This is my 13 years. I started my career as a teacher counselor and then social emotional counselor, and I'm working as a college career counselor. In Doha, this is my 7th year. And before that, I have worked in CBSE school, IB school, now I'm in a British school. And I have my colleagues, Jacqueline and Kish. We have worked together, and it's nice to see you all here, and we will be sharing our thoughts with you. Thank you.
Okay, so when we were rehearsing last night for today's presentation, we kind of reflected on some of the sessions we attended and realized that we would like to do something different. So make it a little bit more interactive. So we don't want to wait until the very end of the presentation to get your questions or any input that you may have. So we decided that after each slide, we're going to just stop and see if you have any questions or if there is any input from any of you. So the first, so building a career counseling or a university counseling plan is not easy. It's not difficult either, but there isn't one that fits every school environment. Students are different. The curriculum you deliver is different. The size of the school is different. The setting in which you work, the country is different, but there can be a framework that we all consider and take elements of that framework and make it our own. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the when, the how, the who, and the what. So the first one is, I hope I get it right. All right. So, hang on. Yes. So the first one is what to do. So you develop a plan. The plan can be small or big as you want it to be. You need to consider the students that you have in your school. You need to consider the school's vision and mission. You need to consider where the students are going, what their needs are, what the curriculum needs are. And you also need to set clear objectives for yourself. So when I said that the plan can be small or big as you want it to be, you can start it as early as 7th grade or 8th grade if you have the manpower. If you don't have the manpower, you can start it much later and simply just focus on preparing students to go to university. That could be the final 2 years of their high school. Whereas if you start earlier, it can be more like a career counseling first, and then it kind of progresses into college counseling. Can I just ask, how many of you actually do career counseling starting early? A lot of you, thank you. So now I'm gonna hand over to Jacqueline, no, Poonam. When to do it.
Okay, so we all agree planning requires a lot of thoughts, and it's an ongoing process. Now, I'm sharing how I do my planning, and you can always share your thoughts, and we can always improvise. First, figure out what the student need help with. Have clear targets in mind, and collaborate with others. So it's best to start before the school year so that you can help students right from the start. But remember, the plan can change as the year goes on, but there are some important time frames we can consider. So, like before school starts, look at what happened last year, get the information, and find out where you can do better. Set clear goals and strategies for the new academic year. And then when school starts, so you are ready. When school starts, the things you plan, like activities, university visits, talks, and interventions that can help students. And keep watching how things are going. Get feedback and change things if needed. And then around mid-year, see how well your plan is working. Are you reaching your goals? Make necessary changes if you need to. So you keep improvising, keep adding, deleting, modifying. And then comes the end of the session. Look at how your plan worked during the whole year and use the feedback to make it better for the next year. I use tracking forms after every term and see what student needs, and I keep changing in the plan. Sometimes student might need help suddenly, so be ready to help with any urgent problem that comes up. See, the plan should be able to change and fit new needs, checking how well it's working, get feedback, and make changes accordingly. So feedback is very, very important.
All right, as promised at the beginning, and then right when I started, I kind of forgot about it. It's like I said, after each slide, we're going to stop and get your feedback or your questions. And I only realized when I asked Poonam that I didn't quite do that. So let's do it now. Are there any questions at this point or any observations that any of you may have? Yes.
So good morning. Sorry, you have regularly throughout the school year. So can you share what is the frequency you are doing and the length of the period, and what is the engagement, the whole class, the small groups, or how do you group the students according to grades?
Okay, can I just jump to the very end of the presentation? Sort of this one. No, that's all right. It is just what we call a framework, where we actually put down what needs to be done if you're starting early, in what setting. So that kind of answers your question in a way. Should it be individual, small group? Should it be a whole cohort? Also about frequency, how often you do it throughout the year, and also how to do it. So the earlier you start, the less frequent in a way it needs to be. So if you start in grade 7 and 8, it's more about the students learning about themselves, learning what their strengths are in a way, and that's why personality assessment is very important at that point. So they realize their strengths and weaknesses and see how they can use the strength to improve in areas where they are not so strong. Also find out their learning style as soon as possible, because we all have different learning styles. And also, this is the time when you can also work together if you have, and I believe a lot of schools do have, sort of a learning support team and social emotional counselors. And social emotional counselors can help a lot with students' time management skills, managing stress, because no matter how or whatever curriculum you do, how well you support your students stress is always going to build up, especially towards the end of the academic year or when they are sitting major examinations, be it the CBSE kind of board exam, the IGCSE, IB, A-levels, whatever that may be. So the sooner we start building those skills and making students aware of their needs, their strengths, and their weaknesses, in a better position we're going to be in the future, and less frequently we need to address those issues. And we can focus more on the career counseling or the university counseling aspect of our job. So the sooner you start, it's enough to have whole cohort sessions with the students and small group sessions with the students. And as you progress further up, you are going to reduce and have less of the whole school sessions and a lot more small group sessions with the students. And obviously, the same way social emotional counseling is, which is confidential, there's a large part of university counseling that is also confidential. So there's a lot you cannot do in small groups. You have to have those individual meetings with the students. So the frequency of sort of individual is going to increase, especially in the second half of grade 11, when they already kind of know what they want to study. They already have some universities in mind because they have done their research. That's when you sit down with them and you work with them individually, looking at their academic strength, looking at the university entry requirements, and figure out if what they have in mind in terms of major, but also the universities, are those kind of in line with their academic performance. Because a lot of universities, and especially I can speak for my students, and not just here in Mumbai, but in other countries as well, where I worked with high-performing students, they have top universities in mind. And while they are really good in my school, in my setting, we need to consider the global aspect of it, that they are up against a huge pool of students, or just as good as they are, or even better. So the competition is huge, and they need to realize that they are really, really good, and it's okay to dream big, but they also need to be prepared to go to universities that are somewhat more realistic in a way, okay? So this is sort of the framework. It has a lot of elements about what you can do, what you can incorporate in your existing curriculum, or if you do not have a curriculum, then how you can create your own and make it work in your school setting. Because whatever works in my school might not work in another school. And even the school curriculum could be the same. A lot of things could be the same, but the students are different, their needs are different, and very often the parents are different. And the parents play a huge role in sort of deciding what curriculum or what counseling curriculum you put in place. So it kind of makes everybody happy. And I would like to also mention the leadership of the school, because yeah, they need to be happy with the curriculum as well. Okay, so there's a lot of information in here. So if I ask myself, do I do all of it? No, because right now, I don't have a dedicated time period built into the student's curriculum or timetable where I could meet them regularly. Throughout my career, I have had only one school where counseling was built into the timetable. Now, it didn't mean that it was career counseling alone. We were still sharing that 1 hour a week with social emotional counseling, as well as later on with, in the IB system, they have extended essay, they have creativity, action, and service. So we were sharing with those teams, and we had to manage so that they get the time when they need it, but also we get the time when we need it. But we were able to meet with small groups during school hours. We were not taking up their break time. We were not taking up after school activities time or their free time after school. That was part of the school curriculum, part of the timetable. But that was a very, I would say, unique school. Not every school is able to accommodate that, but then you have to figure out how you can make it work. And I wanted to start with one proverb that my own children like to use, which goes like, where there is a way, there is a will, there is a way. So if you want to make it work, then you can make it work. If you are a school leader, again, if you want counseling to be part of what you do as a school, I'm sure you will find the time and you will find the people and you will make it work. Any other questions? Sorry, that took up a lot of time.
You have a particular block that's reserved for counseling, or you just pull out kids to the lunch break?
Okay, so right now we do, so during the IB curriculum, students have 3 periods, and that's 3 times a week. Again, do I get those 3 times? No, definitely no. So again, we need to work as a team with, again, the extended essay, the CAS supervisors, and see which period we can have them when we need them as a whole group, and we can make it work. When we have individual meetings with them, again, they have 3 periods, not all of them at the same time. When I say they have those 3 blocks throughout the week, that's for everyone in a particular cohort. But other than that, they all have a free period here and there. So they can use that free period to book an appointment with their counselor. And they use lunchtime as well, yes.
So I can answer to her question, what works for me in terms of blocking the hour. As you mentioned, we have a DP curriculum, and I mean, the learners get 3 to 4 periods per week, and it will be like a timetabled one in their calendar. Like I block, say, like every Monday, block 6 will be counseling session. So it will be there on their Google Calendar as well as my calendar. So automatically they have to come and sit with me for the counseling. This is how it works, because learners have so many things to do: CAS, TOK, extended essay, and also some other backlogs which they have to fill in if they take leave on a particular school day. So if you block it, it should be for counseling. Like how they treat mathematics, physics, chemistry, they should also treat counseling as one of the priority based hour or session.
Thank you. As I said, where there is a will, there is a way. You want to make it work, you will find the time and you will make it work. Is it going to be the ideal situation? Highly unlikely. But it works, and over time you can improve it, and then it will be the best it can be in your school for you and your school. Yes. And then we come. Yes, let's go to you first, and then we can come back.
Referring to the curriculum that you showed us, so will you be talking about that, and I should ask my question after that, or should I just ask right now?
I can go back and then you can. Yes.
Okay. So here, like, let's say, for example, some of my students are interested in Ivy League colleges, but till now they have not started anything. So like here you said that in grade 12, they should start shortlisting. So now they're way behind. So how do I catch up with that?
Well, individual meetings more frequent.
Okay.
Also, do they have the academic results to back up that decision? That's where you start. Because if they don't have the academics, then it's a no-win. Yeah, they might have huge dreams, but if they don't have the academic results, then what are we talking about? Those Ivy League universities are highly selective. So do they have the SAT like 1550 or above? If they do they have the GPA or whatever curriculum you use? Do they have the 3.9 out of a 4 if your scale is a 4? Do they have, if they do IB, are they above 40 points right now considering their grade 11 grades? If not, then that's a no-go. And you need to be honest. So that's one thing about counseling. And also when I said it's confidential. So it's not a conversation that I can have in a small group, right? It is a conversation that I would have with the student and the parents. And this is where the parents need to be involved as well. After all, they're the ones sort of sometimes, not all the time, they're the ones having those big dreams for their children. And they tend to be, not all of them, but sometimes they tend to be unrealistic, set expectations for their own children that are just simply unachievable. And even if it's achievable, again, is the student really a right fit for an Ivy League university? Would they be happy? Would they flourish in that setting? If not, again, it's a conversation with the student and the parents.
And one more thing, actually, like you said, we should block some periods. So what our school does is it conducts life skills classes. So that's social and emotional, behavioral work. So referring to this, I decided that one period, like we meet every week, one class every week. So out of the 4 classes in a month, one I can make solely for career.
Amazing. So again, that is just another example that if you want to make it work, you can. You need to collaborate with your colleagues and your leadership, but you can always find the time and then you will make it work. Okay, shall we go back to...
I just want to add that in instances where I'm unable to meet students on a face-to-face basis, I resort to Zoom, and that's been a great experience.
And I would like to add on to that, even when students are out of school, they are sort of unwell and not able to meet you in school, or they would have to cancel Zoom or Teams meeting or Google Meet, whatever form you choose to go with is perfect, unless they are in hospital, in which case, obviously, that's a cancellation. Yes, at the back.
I am the University Counselor at Dhirubhai International School in Mumbai. The biggest challenge I face is getting the students to adhere to deadlines. So even though we are quite strict about it and we keep talking about it, we involve the parents also, but there's always an excuse that there's an extended essay, there are IAs, IOs. So what are the strategies that all of you adopt? I would love to, try some new ideas.
Okay, so, okay. Poonam, what would you like to say?
See, I have heard many questions and I'm facing the same things. So I am using now different channels. The Padlet, I've created a Padlet where I put all the information with the links, and it goes to the parents as well as students. So I'm not sure how many of you are using different platforms, like we are using Unifrog, you may be using. If not, so what I do is, you have to involve parents. Sometimes there's a communication gap between a child and a parent. Parents are not involved or not interested. In that case, when I'm meeting with the student. So same time I'm writing the minutes of meeting, and same moment I share with the parents. Or I ask parents when I have one-to-one meeting, I ask them to be with your child. That's a hardly quick 5 minutes. Before 5 minutes, I keep the form ready. I give them a Google form, they fill it, the information is there, we talk, I write minutes of meeting, same time we exchange. And then we build on that. I know we have time issues, and there are some students, to bring them to our office is a big challenge.
Does it answer your question?
Kind of. That's still work in progress, I guess, for everyone.
Yeah, it is. So involving the parents is always a good idea. Again, I think one thing that COVID has taught us, and it's a positive, that we can do a lot more online. So parents don't necessarily need to come into the school to be part of the conversation. They can be in the car, not ideal, but they can pull over, they can be in the car, wherever they are, they can be in their office, take 10 minutes out of their busy schedule, be in the meeting, and understand what's going on. So I'm a parent myself, right? I do know that my own children, the way I see them can be very different from the way they are seen in school. What they tell me at home could be sort of their version of what really transpired in school in a particular meeting. So who do you side with? Now, as a parent, you tend to side with your children, right? I mean, that's just how it is. But we also need to be realistic, right? And see that maybe it's not always the truth, or not quite the truth what our children tell us. So we need to help the parents understand that it's in their interest as well to be part of the communication, part of the discussion. And if you can do that 5-10 minutes, that's really good. Yeah. And the minutes are important. Can I? Yes.
So I just wanted to mention a little bit about the deadlines, because I know this is something that we constantly struggle with for students, and part of it's just life. Things get in the way, or they think they have more time, and then other things come along. So for me, one of the things that I try to do from the very beginning is express to the students the value of keeping a calendar of what the deadlines are, and to try to break up the pieces of the application puzzle into parts, especially during the last year, the senior year, because it can become overwhelming very quickly. And the idea of doing a whole application at once can be daunting, and you don't realize that maybe it's going to take more time. But if you set aside maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do a section at a time, then you can get it done easily and much faster than you would if you just did in one setting, because all of a sudden you're not so overwhelmed. And then that gives you time to do all the data aspects of an application, and which is things that students know. You know, they know their name, they know their address. Well, we hope they know their address. You know, but what they don't realize is they may be asked questions about their parents' education or their siblings or other aspects of the application where they may have to gather some information. So I try to give them the tools, a list of all of the data elements that they might need to collect before they actually start the application, so they have it by their hand when they're actually inputting that aspect. And I try to take time as a reminder to students and say, hey, have you worked on this part of the application yet? Let's move forward with this. And in my area where I'm currently working, there are some universities that do have earlier deadlines than others. And so I try to publish those early on. You know, it's 100 days till you have to turn this in. It's 90 days, it's whatever it might be. And then try to give milestones along the way to say, have you started yet? What's going on? And of course, during individual meetings, and we have advisories here with our teachers to see where they are as part of their plan. And especially for the ones that do have the earlier deadlines, getting those done first, prioritizing which ones you're going to do first, so that you don't focus on the ones that can come later at a different time. So I know it's really hard to send those follow-up emails to students, but if we're not there constantly reminding, either through our Google Classrooms, through regular emails, individual emails, or even using SMSs, we do that as well. And then you'll see different posts around the school. So hopefully something's going to catch their eye. Something's going to be a reminder. One of their friends is going to, tell them as well. And that's all we can do, and hope for the best. But yeah, deadlines, they're difficult.
It's difficult for all of us. I mean, hands up if you never procrastinated ever. There we go. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions at this point, or any observations? Okay, can I just then go back and hand over to Jacqueline, who will talk about how to do it?
So one of the things that we have seen briefly in the framework is all of the different aspects that we have to cover. And there were some questions about how do you figure out if it's a small group, or you do it based on a class year or individualized counseling. And we try to break that down for you, but it also just depends on the topic, the timing of the year, and the individual settings. Sometimes students come to you one-on-one and you can cover information with them directly at that time, but you also have that same information that you want to give to the rest of the students, either in their year group or ones that who might be looking at more selective universities versus ones who are looking at a different kind of caliber university. So you need to plan for those types of things. And maybe at the beginning of the year, you make your own flow chart and decide, this is the information I want to share individually, in small groups, and so forth. One of the early areas that we try to look at, and probably one of the first things that I talk about with all my students, is, who are you? What makes you, you? And of course, many of the students, they don't have their 5-minute elevator pitch. I mean, heck, mine's constantly changing, right? Who are you? Because you're learning new things, you have different experiences, you find out that you enjoy something, or more importantly, you find out that you don't like something that you thought you would enjoy. And so I really try to stress to students to learn more about themselves, utilizing different kinds of personality inventories, assessments, some which I try to make are quick and easy and fun, that it helps them really realize what they're talking about, and some that are a little bit more in depth. And some of those are great because they can also share information about the careers that are more likely for those students, for those characteristics that are coming forth in the personality inventories. It doesn't mean that that's what they have to do, but it gives them some examples that more people who have similar characteristics to you tend to go into fields like X. And that helps them understand a little bit more. I know for me, early on, even when I was at university, I chose a field that I thought I would really like, because I had a strong interest in it. And I was in there and I did okay academically, but it just didn't feel like the right fit for me. And so I took a personal inventory, and it came back with information that I say is like a light bulb. I knew it, I felt it internally, but I just needed to hear it again as a reinforcement. And once I heard that and I validated it, then I said, okay, well, what can I study with that? Or what kinds of careers follow along those characteristics? And then it was a little bit easier for me. Now, am I in that same path? Kind of. But as you get more experiences in life, and as you have opportunities to learn more and you find out what you enjoy, then you pivot, you change. It's not a straight road to get to where you're going. But also, there are many different careers that students come to us and say, I want to be an engineer, but they have no idea necessarily what kind of engineer that they want to be, or even what is engineering. And the same thing with medicine. I want to be a doctor. Okay, great. What do you know about being a doctor? Nothing. I just want to help people. Okay, great. I help people every day, but that doesn't mean I'm a doctor. So I tell, no matter what career field students tell me, I say, find somebody who's doing that and make an appointment and talk to them, have an interview and ask them what happens in the day, you know, what's a typical day like for you, or what's an atypical day for you, just to find out, and what are the skills you need and the characteristics that you need, because it's not necessary that you have all of the theoretical or practical knowledge bases of those careers. So many careers and so many jobs have similar skills, and you can use that, and you can also gain experiences. A lot of students who I have been working with over the last 5 to 7 years haven't had opportunities for many activities or experiences. And so trying to find ones that they can do based on the current society that I'm in can be difficult. So sometimes you have to base what they're doing on their skills. And that's very important, because some jobs work with teams, some jobs work on an individual basis, and you have to learn, is that the environment that I like? Or am I more of, you know, out and about in front of people kind of person, or do I like to be more by myself? And so really working with those areas and talking with students and fitting all of those different elements in with the student as they move along in their exploration for college and university is really important. And keeping track of it. Maybe you take notes, maybe you have a Google sheet. You know, you just have to figure out what's going on and what works best for you in your own settings.
Okay, so we do have a second slide to the how to do it. Let's have that one, and then we can again go back to questions if there are any. Poonam, would you like to take this one?
So networking plays a vital role. Thank you, IC3. Collaborate with your team, parents, and people from different fields. That's very, very important here. Partner with student clubs. We have a psychology club that provides targeted support for, like career focus club can align with career exploration goals. Like if you have a software you're using, that's fine, you can work on it. But if you're not using any software, then you can have different clubs. You can provide different information about the universities, or you can have set of computers, and then you can ask how to search for the universities, your different courses, your choices. And the wellness club can contribute to the social emotional development. That's very important. Same times when you are working with the clubs, you're giving time to the students to work into that field. Also, you can give the work hours that can go to in their non-academic profile. Plan events, workshops, and activities that align with the counseling curriculum that you have designed. These can include career fairs, study skill workshops. Your teacher can help in study skill workshops. And then mental health awareness events. You can use your psychology teacher, or you can call person from mental health departments, different government departments. And then you can run always college application workshops. So these college application workshops, at every term, you have to target one part of the application. So that's the way, like, we don't get much of time, but this way, if we plan out, we can do, we can work, we can utilize maximum way. Parent involvement is very, very important. Engage parents in counseling process through workshops. I love coffee with counselor. So in the morning time when they come to drop their kids, that's the time we have the coffee with counselor. They come and sit with me for 10 minutes. We discuss, we share information. And when I have one meeting with the students, I ask, like as discussed with the parents, so they can join online if they cannot come to the school. So you can have a Zoom meeting with the parents sitting next with the student. And same time, parents feel they are involved and they are updated what's happening in the school and what the counselor is working for. Collaborate with professionals. Again, networking is very, very important. If you collaborate with professionals such as different career counselors, psychologists, academic advisor, university admission advisors, or from different industries. So these collaborative strategies help you to create a supportive and well-rounded learning environment. I use newsletter. I send every week with information, and I keep past information as well. So I just keep on adding it. So whenever the student needs, they can just go through and they can search for the information because that has the links. Or generally, I create a hyper document. So hyperlink are there. So whenever they need, they can just click on it, and that has my Padlet as well. And I ask students to create their Padlet so we can exchange the information.
All right. Any questions? Yes.
Coming to your question on newsletters, who's the target audience? Is it the high school parents?
Hello. Yeah, coming to your question on the newsletter, the topic, who is the target audience? Is it the high school parents or is it the entire school parents? And associated with another question is, do you encourage parents from 5, 6, 7 to be involved or have a meeting? I mean, this question I'm asking is because of the time constraint we have. So how do you go about it? Any inputs on that?
Question, like 5, 6, the classes like 5, 6, they are in the primary. We just introduce the careers, like you have a different fun activities, like you can ask students to become a doctor, or you can involve parents. What we do is we call parents like the doctor and engineer. So they set up a stall. So the child is in a doctor form dress, and the parent next to him, and the other case they just walk around, ask questions, so they get the feel what the doctor is, what they do, and how much they earn. The first question is, how much do you earn? So this is what happens in 5 and 6. But the newsletter, what I share, that's for the high school. So from year 7 to year 13. So we have different newsletters in our school. So one is the class-wise, the other is like for the primary is different, for FS is different, and for the secondary, again, KS3, different key stage-wise. So my newsletter is for the secondary from year 7 to year 13. And the Padlet, what I use, that's only for year 12 and 13.
Any other questions? Can we have the mic over here?
Yeah, I would just like to ask a question, something more in details about the newsletter that you send. When you send newsletters, do you keep on appending to the same newsletter, or is there every week you are sending a different newsletter? Another question that I have is that do you have say, for example, a OneDrive where we could be referring to the earlier newsletters in case you are sending different newsletters every week? Because the child might want to refer to the first newsletter that probably you sent in the first week of school. So how do you address this?
We use Sway. Yeah, you must be using different softwares through that. So that's a digital document. And you keep saving every week wise. So if there are some conferences or the workshops that is into the particular week, so that's in that week newsletter. But the information about the timelines, the process, that is every time I pin into it, because the first letter is introduction about the counselor, how I'm going to work with the student. I always pin the flow chart, how the data flows, what I will be doing every month. So that is pinned. There are some information which are pinned, but the like some workshop, the online conferences, those links are there because that link expires, so that I remove it.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to the next one. So who should do it? Yes, we're counselors. In some schools, if you are lucky, and I consider myself lucky, I have always worked in a team, at least 3 people, and that is the case in my current school as well. So we have that support of one another, so we can balance it out, who does what and when. So every student, irrespective who their counselor is, gets the same information. So we have one of us who is solely in charge of organizing the university visits. Again, she sends that information to all the students. I, for example, am working more on assigning students to counselors. We use a platform. I'm sure you have seen CLFO downstairs. I'm not publicizing them in any way, but that's the system that I'm using, or I have been using for quite some time now. So again, creating groups for the different counselors. If I post a message for my students, I post it for the other students as well. So you just have to decide who is going to do what in terms of activities that concern all the students. Now, obviously, when it comes to individual counseling, some students need more hand-holding than others. Then you work with those students more closely. Keeping track, as Poonam mentioned it earlier, is very important. Note-taking is very important because you might remember what you discussed with a particular student today, but will you remember 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now? And if a student says, but we never spoke about it, how can you say that we actually have? So what I tend to do as a counselor, when I have an individual meeting with a student, whether the parents are also involved or not, it doesn't really matter. The student has to make notes. They have to sit next to me with their laptop. And as we are discussing in bullet points, they have to make a note of the meeting. And then when done, they can't leave my office without sending me the notes. And then I have evidence, they also have evidence, and also easier to keep track later to go back. But you know, we discussed this 2 weeks ago. Can you please just do it? Yeah, so it is the counselor, but very often you're not necessarily as fortunate. Some people run sort of a one-man show and you have to juggle a whole lot. Then it is very important that you try to create sort of a supportive network who will work alongside you to help you, but also help the students. So who are those people? So they could be, and again, in pretty much every school, irrespective of country curriculum, you would have sort of a form teacher. The name could be different in different school settings, but someone who is in charge of a group of students, right? Like a grade 7, I don't know, 25 students, but then over that, there could be another person who oversees all the grade 7 students or the grade 11 students. And those people usually have a rapport with the students. They know them. They have been teaching them for years. They've been working with them for years. So if you need any kind of support, they are the people to go to. You also have the parents. Again, so that has come up earlier. Deadlines, they are not meeting deadlines. They are not scheduling meetings because sometimes they just don't, or they do, and then they don't show up. Again, that is something that you need to involve the parents. You email the student and you copy the parent in. And an event, I don't think, try to remember back even when I was in the classroom, but I encountered the difficulty that a parent would not be supportive, would not be talking to their child saying, I just got an email from your teacher saying you haven't submitted your work. Show me that you have. If you have done it, show me. I would do that with my own children, much as I love them. I don't always trust them. So if I get an email like that, then I would want to see evidence. Okay, you say you send that document to your teacher, show me. And sometimes like, oops, oh, I thought I did. Oh, did you? But there is no evidence, right? So you need to work with the parents as well. They are generally very supportive. They want what's best for their children, and they understand what is at stake when it comes to universities. And I don't want to generalize, but in India especially, but I also come from a background where education is prioritized and parents want what's best for the children, right? And they actually do care. And they are there to support. So if you reach out to them, I'm pretty sure that they are going to be very supportive. And last but not least, yeah, you need to work with your school administrators, your head of school, your principal, secondary principal, vice principal. If you have curriculum coordinators, if you are doing IB, you have the IB coordinator. If you are doing A levels, you have the sixth form tutor. So there are people, again, there to support you. And especially information that is related to a whole group of students or the whole cohort. This is where you can actually rely on their support as well. So you might not have so-called a counseling department. I do realize that sometimes, especially if the size is small or sometimes there are financial constraints, so the school is not able to hire more than one counselor, then you kind of need to build sort of your network, your support group, who are able to do the work that you just cannot. All right. So we have looked at this one, and then I would also like to take you to this one and ask Jacqueline to talk about the sort of resources that are available. Some resources are obviously free and some are paid. Jacqueline.
So we know through networking and working with each other and other colleagues that it's very important to be able to share tips and to give you information that's practical and hands-on that's accessible to you. So we wanted to put together several different things that you could get to later, because you'll have access to all of these slides through the conference. And so these are links that we have provided. And if you're in British curriculum, then we have put similar framework together for the guide for British curriculum. In the American systems, NACAC, which is the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, as well as IACAC, which is the International Association of College Admissions Counselors, are great professional resources that are available to you as counselors to get information and to connect with each other. And they have conferences as well every year. IACAC's conference is held in the summer, and NACAC's conference is typically held in September. We want you to look around based on where you're from and your locality, to also think about what other types of things you guys are already attending IC3, and that of course is a great resource as well. And for those of you who have not participated in any kind of certification for college counseling, they do offer that type of program as well. And there may be other programs that are out there. So see what's available locally, and also try to understand the regulations and the laws that are relevant to you in your location and for your own students, because there might be some different things that happen based on where you're located and the students that you're serving that would be different. I know I had to make some adjustments to how I taught things and how I shared information to students here in Qatar versus when I was in America. You know, I had to say things differently. There were things that I had to avoid in conversations. So I had to adapt, as we do for each individual student. And lastly, and Eniko, if you can click on the link here at the bottom to online resources and support networks, there is a whole, oh no, not that, the link itself at the bottom.
Cannot look.
Yeah, that one. Oh, it's not bringing it up.
No.
Okay, here, let me see if, I don't know if I share my screen, if it'll work, but let me,
Let's see.
try, I thought I had it up, hold on. I all planned for it. Here we go, let's see if it'll, here we go. I don't know, because I won't be big on your screen there, but, so we have provided.
Perfect.
Okay, good. So we've provided this link, and all these are hyperlinked in here. This is not the end of the world, and it's not everything, but it does give you a lot of different links for resources that you can utilize in your college counseling. So it's different application systems that we work with, whether it's in the UK or if it's in Canada. These just happen to be some common ones that I'm familiar with. Common App Coalition related to the United States. Again, some professional resources that we talked about, and there's a new program called the Counselor Accreditation Program through BMI and the Times Higher Ed, which is available to folks. Again, some of these other groups that I've mentioned. College Search, there's so many different ways that students can look for colleges and universities. And if you need to do something that's a little bit more specialized, like here, the Find an Art and Design School, you know, there are searches for it. So you can utilize those types of things. Some students may need money, so you'll see different types of resources related to that. And then you'll also see some other things related to those personality inventories that we talked about. There's a lot of different ones that are out there. Parents and students and everyone, they're all concerned about brand, and they're all consumed with rankings of schools. While, you know, we push fit and happiness and being secure in the choices that you've made, a lot of people are, you know, I want to be number one. So here's just some different ways that you can see rankings, because somebody's perspective on one school's ranking based on a program might be different than the overall ranking of a school itself. And then, of course, testing. I'll tell you that there's some different resources out there that you can get newsletters for. And even if you work with other colleagues or independent counselors, some have some really great resources that they've pulled together that can help you. I know in Qatar, we have created a WhatsApp group, and we collaborate with each other. If you can do that in your district, you can help each other. Some people are lucky that they have other counselors that they work with on a daily basis, but most of the counselors I know, we're by ourselves. And so to have these other friends and colleagues that we can reach out to and say, hey, have you ever had an example of this? Or do you know where I can find that? And even going to conferences and participating with people, you hear an idea. Somebody says something that you've thought you wanted to do, but you don't have time to do it from scratch, or you don't want to reinvent something, to be able to reach out and say, hey, could you share a sample of that for me so I can get an idea of what you're talking about? Really can help so much in moving us forward, because our time is so limited. We don't have lots and lots of times to do things and meet with the students. I mean, I could spend a lot of time just meeting with students, because the students who come to me have different schedules. So I could have appointments all day long. And when would I get other stuff done? It would be very difficult to do it. So being able to share resources is important. So we wanted to provide these things for you. And we've also put together on the slides that framework, so you'll be able to get that as well and utilize it.
All right, and our time is up. So I believe that you have access, or you will have access to the slides, and then you will be able to click on the link. I don't know why it didn't come up on my computer, but it's a hyperlink. So if you click on it, you should be able to access those resources.
The Google Doc, it's not a presentation, the one that you showed later, that's the Google Doc document.
This is what was sent to IC3. So they should, wherever they publicize it, it should be there. But yes, I hope so. The whole presentation, that's my understanding, that everyone should have access to all these presentations. But I may be. Okay, so let me talk to IC3 people and see how we can get that information to you. What I can sort of promise, I give you my email address, then you're gonna fill up my inbox.
Yes, please. Can we have your email address? And
I
then
give
if
you
you
my
can send
email
all of these resources, this
Okay.
is one of the most important, presentations for us, all the counselors. Okay.
And reach out to us
so
on
we really want
LinkedIn as
to
well.
have access to this one. Thank you very much. Wonderful session. I really appreciate.
Okay, I'll try to key in if I can. So yes, I could close this one.
And don't forget us on LinkedIn, because that's another good way to reach out to us, and then we can, share information as well.
So which I'm just announcing it. Okay.
All right. So you can make a note of an email ID that I'm telling you, and we'll share the presentation, info@ic3movement.com. Please write with the session block and the name, and we'll share the presentation. The email ID is info@ic3movement.com. Small, yes, lowercase, info@ic3movement.com, and we'll share the presentation with you. Thank you. You can write on the same email, yes. Sure, I can check that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Can we go to the
If you go to
present?
speakers,
Where are the
you can see all the information with our email addresses. And
this is
if
the
you
one
would
that
like
you
to-
wanted, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.